about to, so.
Okay.
So we are live on Facebook. And I'm also going to. Got it.
I don't expect that my computer will die in the course of an hour. If for any reason I go away, that would be why, and I'll switch to my phone.
Okay, all right.
Just got a new laptop, and I don't have a cord,
Oh,
but it's charged. It's a good charge, so it should be fine.
okay, all right. Well, hopefully it would not. All right. Well, thanks everyone. And actually for the first time this year, maybe even ever since I've been doing this, we were able to go live at exactly 3:30. That's a first. So I think it's because I've got some very smart ladies online that were able to guide me through it. You all don't want to know the backstory about the timing and everything, but we're here. And I'm grateful to everybody that is joining or able to join or will join to listen to this budget conversation. So this afternoon, we're continuing the FY25 budget conversation series as a way to keep looking at things in the budget and also to get input for constituents. And as many of you know, housing is the biggest issue. Housing and transportation are the issues that people talk about the most. And housing, as all of you know, is very critical. I mean, it's our own. You lose your housing and you've lost everything else. And so, how do we tackle this important necessity? How do we make sure that Nashvilleans have a roof over their head? And so I'm very lucky to have with me three incredible ladies, two with Metro, one a non-for-profit that are doing amazing work on housing and helping Nashvilleans stay at home. So ladies, thank you so much. I know you're all very busy. Thanks for making the time to join me this afternoon to talk about this important topic. And so what I want to do is, if you all will introduce yourself briefly, I think everybody knows you all, probably, but in case there are people out there that don't know each of you, if you want to introduce yourself briefly, and then we'll get into the conversation after that. So I'll start with Angie.
Thank you, Council Member, for hosting this important meeting and all you do for the city. And thanks to my great colleagues here for all you do. I'm Angie Hubbard, the Director of Housing I'm with the Metro Planning Department. Our office has been around since January 2022, so we're relatively new, maybe not as new as April's team, but we're excited to be an embedded division within the city to carry on continuity of work from year to year, regardless of any change of administration or council members. That's been a challenge over the past maybe 10 years or so as we've been dealing with housing. But I look forward to sharing information on what we're doing and answering any questions that you all may have. Thank you.
Thank you. April.
Hi, April Calvin, the Director of the Office of Homeless Services. I'd like to say we're just the baby department, but I guess Angie's department, they're toddlers right now. We are July 1, we will celebrate 1 year anniversary of this department, and happy to be able to share about some of the great work that's happened within the last year and future efforts that we're about to embark on. Thank you for this opportunity, Council Lady Zulfat, and happy to share along my colleagues.
Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Darkenya Waller, and I serve as the Executive Director of Legal Aid Society of Middle Tennessee and the Cumberlands. We are Tennessee's largest nonprofit law firms, and although we have our principal place of business in Nashville, we also have offices in Columbia, Cookeville, Murfreesboro, Tullahoma, Gallatin, Oak Ridge, and Clarksville. And we offer free civil legal services to low-income people, which also includes representation to tenants. And I listen of the baby and the toddler, and I feel like an old great-great-grandma then, because we were founded in 1969, which makes us 55 years old this year as a nonprofit. So But I really appreciate the opportunity to share more about the work that we get to do in Metro Nashville, Davidson County, and in partnership with Metro government.
Thank you. I like the family analogy, the grandma and the toddler and the babies, because what we're talking about here is families, it's taking care of families. So I like that we're actually starting off with that. So Ms. Angie, since your department is housing, I figure that we probably should start with you because you take the topic right off the bat. Can you share with us all the programs and things that your department has that is assisting us in dealing with housing in Nashville?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And I think I'm going to share my screen and go to our website because this is rather than doing a slide deck where people won't know how to find information or try to find a slide deck later in email, we'd love to show what's available online as a resource. But to start out, our division, when we were created in January 2022, there were 3 of us. We're now at 10. But we started with a vision of housing. Every Nashvilleian should have housing security. And why we went that bold with a vision is often we work in silos with different departments. Our division does not do direct services for residents, but we know that what we're doing around housing policy affects all residents. And we wanted to look through it through multiple ways, not just what we can fund through different incentives and tools or preserve the physical building, but what are those barriers to residents getting into housing and keeping the housing that they have, which always keeps us with collaborative partnerships with April's division. Darkenia, we've worked with several folks, Liz in particular, on your team, folks at MDHA, and we're embarking on a very broad unified housing strategy. I want to talk about that at the very beginning because this is an effort for us to really map our ecosystem around resources, partners, policy. We need everyone when we announce our community engagement opportunities to come to the table and share housing journeys. If everyone has a different housing journey, if we can't capture that, we can't create the right tools and programs and policies. And a lot of times housing policy has just been folks sitting around a table, and we don't want to do that. We want it to be informed by the people that need housing the most. So I'm going to just share my screen. I'm going, maybe one of my colleagues can tell me if, thumbs up if you're seeing a website that says, okay, great. So if you go to the planning department website, or you can maybe Google Metro Nashville Housing Division, you will find our website. This just is the name of staff. But scrolling to the bottom, we have 4 different cards right now. One is on the state of housing in Nashville. I'm going to go to this one first. Did you see it change to state of Nashville? I want to make sure I don't have to stop sharing it. Okay, great. This is very important because the first question that we always get is, what do we mean by affordable housing? So I want to clarify, when I talk about affordable housing, I am specifically talking about housing that is restricted, and it is restricted through some legal form, like a restrictive covenant, a contract, other mechanism, to be affordable for a certain period of time, especially for households at 80% of the area median income or below. So what does that mean? So if you click on the link for what is affordable housing, you'll come to this, and there's different definitions in state law. We're just providing those. So we're talking about households at 80% of the area median income. And you can see this is 2023. HUD just released 2024. We haven't updated this yet. But you can walk this table over and see where the incomes align for different household sizes. To the far right, you can see what that means by hourly rate and the kind of jobs associated. We wanted to make sure this is personalized. There's a lot of misinformation and mischaracterization about affordable housing and who needs it. These are people that are making our city work, period. They're people in our education system. There are people working in restaurants, our first responders, working in our hospitality industry. That's many of our economic drivers. Someone working full-time, minimum wage, is at 30% of our area median income. I just want to level set that because of the stigma that affordable housing has is flat out just incorrect. These are hardworking people that are often working 2 or 3 jobs just to be able to live. And oftentimes, and you can see to the far, over to the far right, these boxes, and this actually needs to be adjusted. It was 49% of our renters are cost burden, meaning that they're paying more than 30% of their income on housing. I think now we're up about 52%.
Ooh.
And this is across all household sizes, but it's more acute the lower the wages. So someone in this 30% area median income or 50%, they're likely paying more than half of their income on housing costs. And we call that severely cost burden. So when we're talking about the tools and policies we're working on, it is particularly for that 80% or below. When we're talking about rental housing, we're really looking at that 60% of the area median income or below. So that's when I use those words, that's what we mean. But this document is online. If you scroll on down, there's different things on here that you can read about. Our division was created as a result of a recommendation from an Affordable Housing Task Force report that was issued in 2021. We're working to implement many of those recommendations. You can find a link to that report. We have some information on our housing strategy that we're working on, but there's a whole separate part of our website that I'll show you to navigate to that. But the other thing I wanted to emphasize is our housing dashboard. And the city council passed an ordinance actually that requires the housing division to have a housing dashboard that's updated quarterly with as much data as we can get. This is public facing. Anybody, you don't need a login. And you can go to this page. You can read on the first page different things about the state of affordable housing and housing in general in our city. Just scroll on down. If you go to the very bottom, this chart shows how many affordable housing units the city has funded through different resources since 2016. This is an unduplicated count because oftentimes, because affordable housing is just as expensive as market rate housing, in most respects, it's as expensive to build. So we have to layer different public resources on top, but this is an unduplicated count. If you hit the next tab, click on the Barnes Fund. This is our accountability tool for the use of the Barnes Fund, and I'll talk more about that in just a minute. But we have multiple funding rounds. We update quarterly, and so round 11 is the last funding round that has been approved by Metro Council. You can filter by any funding round. Hovering over any graphic gives you details, so you can get all sorts of information that you might be interested in on the Barnes Fund. This is how many units have been funded by different developers since the 10-year history of the fund. And then here is a heat map, essentially, of where the concentration of Barnes Fund units are across Davidson County by council district. And these are the current council districts. So there's lots of information that you can find about the performance of the fund. Trying to go back to the top. Then the last tab, the third tab, are other tools that we have. And so this is where we just show the performance of some American Rescue Rescue Plan Act funds for affordable housing. Our tax abatement programs, both for the low-income housing tax credit program and our mixed income pilot. You can find lots of information here. We are then the permanent supportive housing. Probably April's going to talk about this. We're looking to add more and more data every time we update. So, but this is a great place to go and look to see what is actually being, when I say in the pipeline, that means what we've awarded funds to. With the Barnes Fund, you can actually look at the status of what's actually what we call in pre-development, meaning they're still putting the rest of the deal together, what's under construction, and what number of units have been completed. What we don't show on our website are specific addresses for privacy reasons. We want to be very, very respectful of the privacy of residents. So everything's aggregated. The next card that we have are around development tools. And we have this structured where you can see specifically what we're offering through the housing division. And then this graph helps people decide like what tool might work for a certain development. But then we've also included resources that the Housing Authority, MDHA, offers, as well as our state housing finance agency, THDA. So, and there are links that you can get. So we're hoping to have more of a clearinghouse of different development tools. But for us, the biggest one is the Barnes Housing Trust Fund. This was created in 2013. It started out with $2 million. I believe Metro Council has invested about close to 145 million into the fund. And these are competitive grants to nonprofits to either construct affordable housing or preserve affordable housing. Councilor, I don't know if you want me to speak to some specific.
Yes, I was, once you said that, something popped to mind. During last budget hearing, this is a question that I put out there, that there were some comments about Barnes Fund was given to for-profit developers, and you just said that it's for non-for-profit. Would you clear that out? Are there options for for-profit developers to get Barnes Fund?
A for-profit developer can partner with a nonprofit, but the nonprofit must have 51% control of the deal. And so there are some, particularly if it's a tax credit deal, usually the tax credit developer might be a for-profit, but the applicant and the entity with the most interest in the deal and in the project must be a nonprofit. And so that we're very clear on that. We require documentation of nonprofit status at an application. And we have, and this link takes you to a whole bunch of information about the trust fund, including annual reports. We have a funding round open now specifically for permanent supportive housing or deeply affordable housing. Talks about tools like the community land trust, various different policies that we have. We're always evolving the trust fund to try to capture more innovative opportunities. For example, when we had the opportunity to use American Rescue Act funds for projects, we did a special funding round of $7 million to create a cooperative housing development for families at 50% of the area median income or below. And we're super excited to bring that to council probably within the next few weeks. The Trust Fund Commission's already approved that project. We're listening. Members of the public, organizations are always welcome to give public comment at a housing trust fund meeting. And we try to listen to different ideas about what other opportunities could be funded through the trust fund and provide some technical assistance and funding opportunities for that. Thanks to some efforts led by Council Lady Suara and others, 20% of our funds are actually set aside for small nonprofit organizations to help them get their foot in the doors in the development space, because it's a really hard space to be in. Typically, and going back, council member, to some of the comments around it being a for-profit or profit motive, we usually don't have more than 50% or more than 50% of the funding is usually from other sources. Barnes Fund is by far not the largest portion. And we do that because it helps our funds go further. We have to scale up. I need to stop for a really big point in that the Affordable Housing Task Force report says we need to have 50,000 units affordable, and this was issued based on 2020 data, 50,000 units affordable at households at incomes at or below 80% by 2030, which is a 10-year period. That means we need to have 5,000 units in the pipeline every year. In 2021, when this report was issued, we were averaging about 1,300 units in the pipeline. We're scaled up with funding that we've had steady at 30 million for Barnes Fund and other tools, but particularly it's the Barnes Fund increase in that steady stream that's allowed us to get to 3,500. But we're still behind getting to that 5,000. So anytime any funding is reduced to the Barnes Fund or we're delayed getting it out, it puts us further back, because it takes, if someone had a shovel in the ground right now, at least 2 years to get something built. And usually there's a whole year lead up even before that with finishing design, construction drawings, pulling permits, all of the other pre-development. And so we need to constantly every year be putting that number in the pipeline, either building new or preserving and rehabbing existing, so that we can eventually get on top of our housing needs. But we're still operating in a deficit on our pipeline.
So
And
if
the
I
bar-
may cut in,
yes.
Angie, so one of the things that's come up in a very flat budget here with our money is that people are looking at the Barnes Fund and they're thinking, oh, there's some unused money here. We say balancing your fund balance on your account. Maybe we can use it. And so is that a viable option, or those are already committed? Because I'm trying to balance that thought process with what you're telling me in terms of we're still behind. How can we be behind when we have all this money? If you can address that.
I mean, the money only goes so far. So for example, $30 million typically gets us between 1,000 to 1,200 units. So we have to look at, we're always looking at other tools that are also in our city, like low-income housing tax credits, federal money, but that's usually how far the Barnes Fund money really goes with $30 million. And we might get 1,500 depending on if there's some tax credit developments associated with that Barnes Fund. So what you're seeing, and I'm going to be super technical, so tell me, Council Lady, if I do, but when you think about a construction project that's funded by Metro, like a sidewalk or a road, those are done through the capital spending plan. And, you know, those take years for those to get going. It's the same thing. It's the same type of situation with the Barnes Fund, because these are construction projects. But we can't use capital spending dollars for housing because there's some restrictions on public-private partnerships if we do that. So it comes out of the operating budget. Most operating costs are usually spent in the year they're awarded. That's why the Barnes Fund's got its special fund, because it can't be spent in the year it's awarded. It's as I mentioned, what we've awarded in funds maybe 2 years ago are construction projects that are getting started. We pay on a reimbursement basis. This is a best practice. This helps us ensure that what we're paying for is being done. Every construction draw has a third-party inspection before we pay. So there will always be that balance until projects close out.
So if somebody is awarded and they're already working on a project, you really cannot control when they will bring in the request for reimbursement for you to pay them as they're working on it, because you've already told them they got the money.
Correct. They're under a legal contract. So when we award the money, we come to Metro Council, there's a contract for a 2-year period, because that's apparently, according to Metro Legal, we have to contract in 2-year terms. We always come back and extend, but before we recommend an extension, we want to make sure that there's some progress being made. If someone is coming to, if we've awarded something 2 years ago and they're coming to us for an extension and they've not done anything, they haven't done zoning, they don't have any of their their pre-development work done, doesn't look like they're making any progress, we won't recommend an amendment. But most of the time, as I mentioned, they're getting these first 2 years, getting everything wrapped up. They're getting the rest of their financial package together. And then they've started construction. And so as they do their draws or they do their projects, and we reimburse based on the percentage of the work that's done. So we can track it all throughout the whole construction period. We don't put our money in up front because we've got to make sure the projects are delivered. And this reimbursement situation gives us that control because we won't pay if we don't see that the work's been done. And so that's what's seen in what's been obligated but not spent. The other part that you're seeing in the fund balance is we've are currently evaluating our most recent funding round that closed, which is round 13. And that will obligate our fiscal year 24 money. So that's not obligated yet. And it will obligate the balance of our American Rescue Act plan funds, the $5.2 million that was just approved at council for the reallocation for other uses. Those will be approved by the Trust Fund Commission at their meeting at the end of this month. And then the contracts will be moving into the Trust Fund Commission. Always is the initial point. They are the initial oversight body for the Barnes Fund. They do the initial recommendations for awards, and when what they approve, then we take to council for approval. So that's our first level. So once we have those projects under approved by council, all of our money that we have received to date will be under contract for projects. So whatever we get through the new budget will be for new projects. So if any of the funding, or if we don't get funding for fiscal year 25, we won't be able to fund any new projects. But that's the Barnes Fund. There's lots of information. I'll quickly go through and give my colleagues, make sure everyone else has plenty of time. We have a program for nonprofits who are asked to do some offsite infrastructure improvements that are mobility related. For example, if NDOT might ask an affordable housing developer to do an enhanced crosswalk, do a bus stop, something like that, but they didn't carry those costs because they weren't part of their on-site development, we have some funding that we will cost share. We have a tax abatement program available. This is a tool available for the for-profit market rate developers. If you look all around downtown at the high-rise residential developments that are being constructed, we right now only have 2% affordability at 80% of our area median income in our downtown area, where you think about the hotel workers, restaurant workers, government employees. So we were looking at opportunities to buy down affordability in those buildings. So we are offering a tax abatement program. We wrapped up year one where we awarded an abatement for 5 projects that'll get us 466 units, with half of those in the core. The other are distributed along corridors. So with all of our tools, we prioritize projects that are along transit corridors that helps further healthy communities, healthy living, that the deeper the affordability, the higher the score or the consideration will give someone. So there's different ways we're trying to incentivize where we're awarding funding. Then finally, if you do participate in an affordable housing program, reach out to my office. We have a priority review process where we will issue a letter certifying that this is an affordable housing development, and as you go through plans review or permit review, that will expedite that. And then last is a memo on how we're considering the use of Metro land for housing opportunities. I know that's a lot. I'm just going to finish with just 2 quick more slides or 2. Oh, whoa, nope, totally missed. Let me stop sharing for a second and get back to my, I'm probably still sharing my main thing. I clicked out of my, are y'all still seeing, am I still
Yes.
sharing, April?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what has happened. happened here?
The
Okay, here we go.
second, yes, there it is.
All right. Now are we still back on my,
Yes.
no? Okay, we're back. The Unified Housing Strategy. This is what I mentioned at the beginning, where we would like lots and lots of public inputs. We will be, as we announce our different meetings, of course, council member, we're going to share with all council members the community engagement dates. Our consultant has been working with the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion to make sure our community engagement plan reaches as many people as possible, that we're able to translate all of our materials into languages that are spoken in Nashville. There's a link here, Unified Housing Strategy at nashville.gov. Please go to that so we can have you on the list and get email blasts as we're doing new things and having meetings. And then the last thing, and I don't want to take too much away from our colleague at Legal Aid, but for anyone who feels like they have been experiencing housing discrimination, here is information on the Fair Housing Act, what is protected characteristics. If you feel like you have been, you've experienced housing discrimination, where you can go. There's various resources. And then here's some information on who to contact if you need assistance around your tenant rights. And then our information on Hub Nashville on anything around property standards. So we're trying to continue to build out our website, even though we don't offer direct resident resources. We're looking to also, though, include a page eventually that will connect to some of our other metro departments that offer direct services like rental assistance or down payment assistance or things like that. So with that, I will stop sharing. That's a whole lot.
It is a whole
there we
lot,
go.
but it is much needed information. I mean, I think part of the things that I know we run into is that sometimes we have programs to help people, sometimes we have things in place, but folks don't know about it, and so they're not assessing it. So having that dashboard and being able to see the place to go, hopefully will provide more information. And it is housing. And so for those that are watching, do bear with us. We might go a little bit over an hour. If we need to. We did that last week when we were talking about safety. Issues like these are not things that you want to rush. I think we want to get as much information from it as possible. So thank you, Angie. That was very detailed. So on the other spectrum, is that as you're talking about housing crisis, people will tell you, and I see it, we all see it, we see the number of unhoused residents that we have. We see people under the bridge all the time. We see people that, you know, when I saw the information you showed about affordability, and I'm looking at that salary levels, it almost everybody falls in that category. And we still have people in our city that are making $7, $10 an hour that cannot afford to live here. So we have people that are losing their homes. So April, I want you to address what your office has been doing in that area with the homeless population. Are you dealing with that crisis? What are the program? What are the tools? What are the resources? Because it all goes hand in hand. So I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Calvin.
Thank you so much. And Andrew, thank you for that wealth of information. Some of the things I was going to touch on, and I don't have to at this point. So that's
great.
That's great. Or maybe I'll narrow it down for what that looks like for our population. In the Affordable Housing Task Force report that Angie showed just a few minutes ago, 52,000 units would be needed by 2030. But of those, 35,000 is what's needed for the 0 to 30% of AMI. So 35,000, so that's more than half of the units that we're saying we need to bring on are really needed for the 30% and below AMI, which is huge because most all people experiencing homelessness fall in that category. So imagine that 35 units needed in the next next 6 years now at this point. So our office, you know, brand new baby department, we're going to turn one July 1st. Our role is to offer effective, efficient, and innovative approaches to our community service providers so that we can help them with assisting to reduce the deplorable conditions that our unhoused neighbors are facing. And we do that by way of fostering collaboration and partnership with neighbors and service providers. We do that by operating as a funder. We deploy Metro funds, federal funds, and other specialty funds to service providers to help with combating homelessness. We're also resource managers, and we do that by way of what's called coordinated efforts. So those coordinated efforts, we coordinate resources, we coordinate landlord opportunities and housing opportunities. We also coordinate outreach opportunities for people experiencing homelessness. And we are also data managers. And, you know, data managers, what people are like, what does that mean? We actually have the database that tracks the success, the great work that's going on in our community as far as helping people to find housing. And here recently, we're going to become asset managers, which is exciting for us. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, right? So just like Director Angie Hubbard discussed, one is our department is not a direct service delivery agency, but we deploy the resources and all of those things that I just mentioned to help ensure that the 45 agencies that partner with us utilizing our HMIS database can find the resources that they need. Why is it important to have a collaborative effort? People ask me that all the time. And many years ago, there was no coordination or collaboration. And people, it was kind of like the squeaky wheel. Someone experiencing homelessness, if they, knocked on the right door, if they had the right case manager, they were able to be connected to housing. And what HUD wanted to implement through a coordinated effort was how to eliminate that. How do you get the services to those that are in the most need? So you might hear us talk about CE or coordinated entry, and that's the process in which that happens. Last year, those 45 agencies housed 1,927 individuals. And so that's huge. And of that, only 10%, 189 of those individuals came straight from unsheltered encampments. So that means we have a vast array of how we connect people to the services, those that are living in shelters, those that are living unsheltered or in situations that are not safe for habitation, and then those that are living in encampments as well. Angie talked about the permanent supportive housing that's needed. One thing that I do want to highlight is what we call the Strobel House. In July, Metro will have the first of its own permanent supportive housing opportunity. Thank you for that. And it's been a long time coming. I would say this started maybe about 2 mayors ago, and an initiative. I think Mayor Freddie O'Connell was a council member at that point, and it was in his district, or it is in his district. And I believe that, he was very influential in helping to get this passed. So here we are. 2 years ago, there was a ribbon cutting for the Strobel House. And in July, dates to come soon, we will be celebrating a grand opening for that center. We're excited about that. People experiencing chronic level homelessness here in Nashville, the unsheltered population has been unsheltered for an average of 5 years. And that means more resources are needed, more housing opportunities are needed, and definitely remembering that they're in that 35,000 units that need to come on in the next 6 years. Other things that our office is actually doing, right? As we're turning 1, we're bringing on some really, really exciting things like the Strobel House, permanent supportive housing, but also we are now what's considered the collaborative applicant. And the collaborative applicant is HUD's term for how to coordinate deploying federal funds in your location. So our department, as a funder, we also will be helping to guide the collaborative applicant role and deploy the federal funds to the agencies here. There's about 15 agencies here locally that receive those federal funds. Another new initiative that we're going to take on with this upcoming year is cold weather shelter. Metro Social Services operated the cold weather shelter for 10 years, and we as a new department will be taking those efforts on. So you may see us reaching out to other Metro departments, seeing what other Metro resources they bring to bear as we move this initiative along. A new thing that we're taking on this year as well is the coordinated entry phone line. Metro Social Services was operating that phone line. I believe, I don't know for how long, I would say at least 7 to 10 years. And this is a new initiative for us. And what's important to note there, as we have a comprehensive portfolio of opportunity here, whether it is the coordinated entry line, the cold weather shelter line, the data, being data managers, being funders, also looking at opportunity for how do we provide some prevention and diversion? Because what we know, for every one individual housed last year, 2.5 entered into homelessness. So prevention and diversion efforts would be the priority focus of our coordinated entry line. How do we help with providing prevention opportunities? I think Angie was touched on it just a little bit in her presentation on what resources are out there. I think that as different initiatives operate in silos, there's a whole financial assistance network called the FAN Committee that's able to provide some prevention efforts for homelessness. So we want to tap into those resources and figure out a great way to close the front door of homelessness. We take our efforts serious in decreasing homelessness, and we try to operate with urgency. So the robust data collection, you'll note in our PIC count, slight decrease of homelessness here in Nashville based on our point in time count. And that's a count that the federal government utilizes to gauge the health of a system, uses the same methodology no matter what from year to year. So that's a great way to gauge. What we're also doing is increasing our outreach coordination. And it's not about one individual outreach worker or one individual outreach agency. It's about the overall collective of our overall continuum of care. So what we want to do is bring those resources, all of the resources in Nashville, to those that are in the most need. The coordinated entry line, why is that so important? Someone asked me, and I thought, the most important thing that I remember from many, many years ago being a service provider was the coordinated entry line allows agencies to focus on the clients that they're serving right now, not holding a long waiting list and carrying that waiting list of individuals that are in the pipeline or that are in need. So that will allow them to speed up their process as they're working with the families or the individuals that they're working with right now. And that's why it's so important for us to hold that line. Many years ago, everyone had their own waiting list. Clients were on multiple waiting lists. And it took a lot of energy to manage that for the agencies. Also, what I really want to highlight is our low barrier housing collective. And that's a collective of service providers, landlords, property managers that are willing to provide housing, partnering with our nonprofits and providing housing opportunities for people that are experiencing homelessness. We have a robust effort. We have about 186. It changes from month to month. So this is last month number. We have 186 partnering property owners, landlords, property managers that are willing to partner with us. And why is this important? It's hugely important in ending and reducing homelessness, meaning how competitive are our unhoused individuals in finding housing when we're in a high growth city, right? We are the IT city. So how do we make it competitive for our individuals that are in need? And what we ask are landlords to reduce barriers. We have sign-on bonus. We have landlord mitigation funds. We have a wide applicant pool. We have opportunities for landlords to be able to ensure that their units are always filled And if it's a situation where that is not working out, then we have opportunity to make it right. So we're excited about that. We have supportive services. As a new department, we are deploying intensive case management and assertive community act teams to help people that are recently housed, meaning instead of asking for that individual to go to the home or to go to an agency or to, go find the help that they need, we are deploying those services directly to the homes of those newly housed individuals, which is beneficial in ensuring that that individual will remain housed there. So we have partnered with several agencies that's able to provide that level of work and that level of care. I believe that's about it for me. Just really
Thank
wanted
you.
to highlight that. Yeah, just wanted to highlight that,
Yeah,
being
thank
housing
you. Thank you.
focused is
Wow,
important.
wow, wow. Amazing work. I want you to answer a quick question for me because we need to get to that, Kenya. I love the Strobel House. I love what you're doing in housing, folks. What services are you doing for those that are still in the encampment? Because we don't have enough houses to give everybody, but how are we taking care of those, and are they able to work with other non-for-profit to get some of the things that they need? And then a quick thing, I remember a couple of years ago, somebody asked, if I see somebody who is homeless and they need help, is there a number to call or to give them that they can actually go to for assistance immediately? If you can take 1 or 2 minutes to answer those two questions, then I can get to Miss Waller.
Absolutely. So right now, the family line is 615-862-6444 if there's a family that's experiencing homelessness. Also, we have outreach workers. You can dial 615-862-6992 for individuals experiencing homelessness. A lot of the community providers, or not providers, a lot of the neighborhood people living in the neighborhood or other people that encounter people experiencing homelessness, they utilize Hub Nashville. So there's a way so it's 3 real great ways to make connections with our office in order to help with addressing homelessness. Also, for encampments, that goes back to our outreach resource coordination. Instead of us just sending one outreach worker into an encampment, we would like to we actually schedule 3 things. One is service fairs weekly in different encampments. And then 2, large resource events where we bring, 10 or more partners to that location. And then 3, we try to do quarterly or monthly, depending on our scheduling at that time, what we call camp cleanups. And that means just helping to provide dignity and opportunity to people that live there to live in safe, clean areas. But what's important that I do want to highlight is our community has an encampment strategy. And throughout that encampment strategy, we have actually housed 4 or closed 4 encampments utilizing a housing first approach. And so that's that 189, 10% of the people that were housed last year, we actually connected them with housing opportunities, whether it's temporary, permanent, and or some family reunification. So we're proud of that work and look to continue to move forward with it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And so I want to segue to the Kenya. One of the things that April has said is that we do need preventive programs. We need programs that make sure people don't lose their home, that make sure that people don't become homeless. And so that's where you come in. And so if you can talk to us about the program that you all are running that is actually helping in that regard, the floor is yours.
I appreciate you having this for us because it really does show the importance of all the tools in the toolbox being used. And I know you and I have said that on multiple occasions that there is no silver bullet. It's going to take multiple approaches to do it. And the more that we coordinate, the better for sure. But that this is one of the tools in the toolbox. And what that is the eviction right to counsel program that was funded by Metro government and shepherded by you, Councilwoman Suara, to provide free civil legal services to persons who are encountering evictions. And unfortunately, what people sometimes don't realize is that there is no legal right to an attorney in civil cases. A lot of times you're like, well, if you can't afford an attorney, you can get one. Just tell people that you need one. And that's just not how it works. That's the case if you're facing incarceration, if you're going to jail, if you've been arrested, yes, you have a right to an attorney. But if you're facing eviction, you do not have a constitutional right to that. And so if you are to have any sort of legal representation in court, it is going to come more often than not from a nonprofit organization like the Legal Aid Society. And so that's what we do. Among many other things, we focus on offering that representation to tenants through a survey that Councilwoman Suara commissioned prior to the implementation of the Eviction Right to Counsel program. We found that in Davidson County, 99.8% of landlords or persons going to court were represented by an attorney. 99.8% in Davidson County were represented by an attorney. And the flip side of that, of course, is the tenant. And we found in that same study that less than 1% of tenants were represented in court by an attorney. And obviously that's a significant imbalance. And, your initial thought may be, oh, well, I mean, if you don't pay your rent, you're going to get evicted. And as you have said in your remarks, April, the fact of the matter is that a lot of the folks who are being evicted actually, are working are working. They're what the United Way refers to as ALICE people, who are asset limited, income constrained, employed. They are the people that work at Waffle House. They're the people who work at Walmart. They have jobs. But for whatever reason are unable to have their needs addressed in court. And so that's where we come in, because what we know more often than not in the IT city is the most affordable housing is the housing that you're in. If you can remain housed, that's the ideal situation. It's when you have to go elsewhere that it becomes challenging to try and find housing. And so we do our level best where it makes sense and where it's the desire of our client to keep those people housed. And again, I say that when it's the desire of our client, because we do listen to their stated desire. Sometimes their desire is to remain, sometimes their desire is to go, but whatever that is, to make sure that they have the legal option in court to have their needs met. And so to that end, this program that we began, was technically funded in July of 2022 and kind of kicked off in October of 2022. We found and we've been able to achieve 95% success in achieving the results that the clients asked for. And that's been yeoman's work. And we do that through different levels of service. And some of that is absolutely legal representation in court where it makes sense to do that. But that's not always the case. Sometimes it's not an attorney standing in court. Sometimes it is a lot of negotiation. And we do some of that in partnership with the Nashville Conflict Resolution Center, along with what we do as attorneys. And so part of this has been a significant amount of education to the community about their legal rights, understanding their rights and their responsibilities as well, things that they're responsible for as tenants, what it takes to go in initially and, look at where you're going to stay, observe it, document it, so that if you're in an eviction situation, you actually have your proof ahead of time to do that. And so we do that through, like I said, legal representation in court, but a lot of community ed. Since the program began, we've done over 300 education events, know your rights events, where we are going into the communities to educate people on what they should do and how they can maintain their housing by following their responsibilities. And we don't just do that in mass. We also in just the general public, we specifically partner with organizations that allow us to get into different communities. We partner with the American Muslim Advisory Council to make sure that we're getting into those communities. We partner with the Nashville Hispanic Bar Association for legal representation specifically, so that we have a diverse group of representatives for diverse communities in our courts. We do that with Conexión Americas in order to get into those communities, and with the organization Affordable Housing Solutions. And so it takes this mix of people, because it's not always all litigation. Sometimes it is just education in terms of what rights are, and negotiation with landlords and persons who own rental properties. A lot of times it's just those conversations, and knowing that legal aid is on the other side oftentimes can get the results that we need. Sometimes it's just additional time. Sometimes that's payment arrangements to allow people to remain in their home. Sometimes it's working through the issues that actually cause the eviction, which sometimes is conditions. What's going on with the home that made the person think that withholding rent was the way to get the need met. And just, this is for free. Always pay your rent. Tennessee is not that state that you can stop paying rent and somehow get whatever condition issue, the toilet doesn't work, the air condition doesn't work. Tennessee is not that state where withholding rent equals your ability to fight that issue. There are other ways to do that, and that's some of the education that we try and do in the community. We knock on doors, tell people, hey, you have a court date through the Eviction Right to Counsel program. And like I said, with our partnership now with the Nashville Hispanic Bar Association, we have persons in court in order to represent people with limited English proficiency in different areas. And so we do that. We are physically present in the courtroom 3 days a week. Oh gosh, I knew my lights were going to go off. Hold on just a moment. I'm going to keep talking.
You did
But
not pay your rent.
Yeah, this has been the craziest thing with the lights. I'm actually at Meharry coming to you today. But we're physically present in the courthouse with a court table where we actually have advocates present and giving information to people so that you can understand your rights. We communicate with the courts. We'll also share that information with people who show up to court. And then our attorneys are actually in the courtroom almost every day, because we're representing people, and where there are opportunities for us to interact there. We do that as well. But we are working towards a situation. Some of the things that we're working through now is systemic issues. It's one thing to have one by one help people, and we do, but if there are opportunities for us to change processes that might better benefit the people who are coming to court, we're looking for those too, and we're addressing those too. We're sitting down with the judges and saying, hey, did you know if you did this, that would impact people better this way? One of the things we're trying to get through now is a requirement that ledgers just be attached to whatever eviction proceeding is happening. A lot of times people just don't know what they owe, or don't know exactly what the charges are. And that's an important part of the legal process, is that you actually have to show that. And if that's attached from the beginning, that's better for both sides. Everyone can have all the information that's needed to be able to address the issue at hand. And so we do that. Now, if I know we're getting close to time, but I would like to also just quickly share, if possible, my screen to show.
If you all are okay, we can give ourselves a little more time, if that's okay with all three of you. I see
Okay.
nothing on the edge, so.
Well, I'll try not to take too long in doing so. And this is just to show you the LAS website. Our website is very short. It's las.org, and that stands for Legal Aid Society. And on our website, we do a lot of work to be able to show legal concepts in simple ways. We intentionally write our materials on a 5th grade reading level, with the goal of being able to ensure that everybody can understand. And if you go to our website at las.org, again, Legal Aid Society, and you look here where it says self-help resources, that takes you to our Legal Aid Society community classroom. And that community classroom allows you to get to our free self-help resources, things like letters that you can write to your landlord, form letters if you feel feel like there's a condition issue, what to do instead of withholding your rent if the toilet isn't working or the air conditioner isn't working. And that process, we not only do it in the form of legal help booklets, but also in videos. And we translate those videos into English, Arabic, and Spanish to ensure that others, multiple languages can access it. And we have them in the form of videos, but we also, like I said, do it in the form of actual booklets, documents that you can pick up. Things like I said, how to get your security deposit back. What is it that you need to say in order to do that? What are the things you should do to be ready to rent in the first place? Taking pictures of your home before you move in, so that there's no allegation of you damaging something that might have been damaged before you ever got there. How to testify in court if you find yourself in a situation where you actually have to represent yourself because you can't get a lawyer. Unfortunately, one of the challenges that most nonprofits have is the ability to serve everybody who contacts us for help. I mean, it's just, we're unable to do that. And I will say, with our Eviction Rights at Council program, we are able to serve the majority of the people who don't call us for help, but we're not always able to have an attorney present in court. So sometimes we're having to, give people the advice they need in order to be able to represent themselves. How to do so if you have to testify virtually, and then getting into fair housing and other resources as well, what to do if, you have bed bugs. But that's what you can find on our website within our community classroom. And so that's at las.org, or you can call our direct number at 800-238-1443, and that gets you to the Legal Aid Society. And what we try and do, I guess similar to what's happening with homeless services, is we address holistically issues that people are facing. It does us no good to keep you in your home once you're facing eviction if you still don't have the income you need to sustain it. And so if there are things that, if there are legal barriers that we can help move out of the way for you to be able to do that, we do that. For example, if one of our clients who was facing eviction also did not have a driver's license, which was prohibiting them from getting to work. They didn't have a driver's license because of an old charge that they had, criminal charge, and fees associated with it. And so our reentry team is able to go in and help get those fees waived, get that criminal record expunged so that they can get the driver's license that they need to in order to go to work. And that's the goal, to be able to remove the legal barriers that are in the way. And so we do that as well through things that we also cover within legal aid, like family law, consumer protection, healthcare law, whether it's issues with TennCare or Social Security, public benefits, things like SNAP or AFDC benefits, education for kids who might be struggling in the school system, needing IEPs, for example, home retention, folks facing home foreclosure. So not just, or people who we're seeing a lot of, the victim of scams, where people are honestly scamming people to get their homes, bankruptcy, tax disputes, reentry work, as I mentioned, and of course, housing. And so with our 48 staff attorneys and 120 staff, we leverage all of that in order to be able to bring that expertise to whatever case comes forward, which is a beautiful thing. So we're not just addressing that single issue when it comes to housing. And I know you had mentioned earlier, and I'll wrap it up with this. You talked about assistance with funding, money, honestly, when it comes to rent. And I appreciate you mentioning that about FAN. But there are entities who are there to do it, whether that's Metro Action Commission, whether that's Rooftop Nashville, whether that's Affordable Housing Resources, THDA, Operation Stand Down for veterans, many local churches, and I'm sure you could probably add to that list. But we tell people, at least here, to start with 211, which often has a ready list of who those people are and their funds availability immediately.
Wow. So the fan that you and April referred to, is there a web page for people to get that, or even some of the resources that you mentioned? Is there a place for people there? Because sometimes, and I've had people come and say I'm having problem with my rent. They're not at the eviction stage yet, so they cannot go to eviction court. But we don't want them to get evicted. And so, is there a page where they can go on any of your website? I think it should probably be on all of your website, where people can actually find those resources right there and then. So does any of your site have that information?
What?
So I was just texting my PIO to say, Demetrius, we need to add these resources to our page. So hopefully that will be on there in the upcoming week. But the fan committee is typically ran and operated by United Way. So those resources may live on their page, but two other ways to find that information, like the 211 website you mentioned, but also the Where to Turn for Help guide that the contributor hosts. Metro funds for it to become a digital platform. And so that's another way to figure out the resources. But I think all three of us would love to add those resources to our page, even if it's a link.
It's a link, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I would suggest that as part of, finding ways to link everything, because somebody might be looking for bonds fund or information, and then they see something about if somebody needs rent, because they may not know to go to this one or that one. So if you all will have it, I would say actually we achieved something on this call. Well, I want to thank you. I can tell you that there were no questions online, but you got a lot of positive comments. Miss Latarian Channel has been typing like anything. Thank you, Angie, for this comprehensive info. Thank you, April, for this data to keep the needs in mind and the info about the services reaching the needs. And then she was blown away by the Kenya 99.8% of landlords are represented by attorney and only 1% of tenants. Wow. So and she's putting link to your website, and she's putting information there, so people that did not watch this can always go back, and I'll pull that out in my blog too, to make sure that people have that. So you didn't get any question. People were just listening and just amazed by the information that you all three have shared. I think it's important to also say that before we close it out, that as we're talking about housing and we're talking about affordability, there is a component that is not driven by you guys, but I think that we ought to talk about it, that's the income. A big part of being able to afford a home or stay in a home is making the salary and the income that people that allows people to be able to afford to live in a home. We live in a state where we're still making, at least the state minimum wage is still $7.25, and the cost of living is grown so much since then. So to all the people that have the power to make that change, to be able to call the state to say, look, people need to have increased salary. I'm grateful to the mayor for making Metro, at least Metro employees, $20 an hour. That is a step in the right direction, and whatever we need to continue to do together to make sure that we're increasing income, we're making sure that resources are available. Somebody else is sending something, and I can't read all of it. Oh, 211 hotline. So I think we covered a lot. I think this is a lot of information. I've been involved in housing, love housing, was on the task force, but I still heard about some things today that even I did not know about. And if I don't know about FAN, I'm sure there are people out there that did not know. If I did not know about all the nice things that Angie was going in and out, I know some of them, but not all of them. I mean, so you all have shared really vital information, and I hope that we'll continue to work together as a city to eradicate this housing crisis, because it's everything. You lose your home, you lose your dignity. I mean, the kids' school, there's just so many things that are impacted. So I want to thank all three of you for making the time to be here this afternoon. I know you're very busy, but I also wanted to thank you from a grateful resident for the work that you're doing. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Thanks to Miss Latanya Channel, our scribe, online, unofficial scribe. She's working so I appreciate it to all of you that took the time to listen in. Thank you, and please make sure this information that you share it with other people as well, so people know that Metro is doing a lot of things to help Nashvilleans. And so with that, do you guys have any last word before we close it out? Oh, the
I'll
vice.
If I
just
could
say,
just say, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Angie. Go ahead, Angie.
I just wanted to add, only because I'm asked about this a lot when I speak, we don't have the ability to regulate affordable housing in the private sector.
Mm.
So unless we have a government money or property or incentive, we can't impose any affordability requirements or restrictions. I get that a lot because people ask, why can't we just pass a law to control rent?
Yes.
Or why can we not require that developer to do affordable housing? We are not allowed to do those things by state law. That's why it's so important for the funding, for the support of the city council and the mayor to continue to invest both in the personnel and the funding to support these programs, because we don't have any regulatory powers outside of what we're able to do through those resources.
Thank you, Angie, for saying that, because every time we talk about housing, I always, as a council person, people have said the same thing to me. Not the last time, but the time before that, before I got on council, that council actually passed an inclusionary zoning bill that says that we can ask for X amount of affordable units, but the state preempted it and said we're not allowed to. So we cannot make anyone build affordable housing. They can do it out of the goodness of their heart. They can partner with us if they want to do. They can do any of the pilot that we're looking into now, but we cannot mandate them. And for a long time, most of the programs that we have also are for non-for-profits. Last year is the first time that we're actually able to find a program that we can do something for-profit. And it's still in its infancy. It's not a big one yet. And so we need help. So for people out there that are developers, for people out there that are building, it's all our issues, is our community. I hope you will work with Metro. I hope you will do it out of the goodness of your heart, because it's the right thing to do. Maybe you put 10% there, you still make your money. So, but thank you for saying that, because a lot of people did not know that we cannot make builders build affordable housing. We cannot, and that's the law. So thank you for sharing that. April, you wanted to add one thought?
Yeah, so just one, I wanted to know that this is on the list of reviews that you're doing for budget. And I just want to say thank you to all of Metro Council. We do not take for granted the hard work, the late nights, the long weeks that go into trying to balance this budget. Also, thanking all of the community partners that help with all of the work that we do. We would not be able to do any of this without them. And last but not least, I should always thank my team. I have a very brand new baby team with new members, but they are knocking it out of the park. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the work that you do. Ms. Kenya.
Same. I just want to definitely shout out our team, the Eviction Right to Council team, and all of our partners. And if you are needing legal representation, or if you are a nonprofit organization or even a governmental entity that wants to know more about your legal rights, want to have that training or want to have that information shared, you can reach out to either the Legal Aid Society or the Nashville Hispanic Bar Association. Either organization has staffing to come to you to train and teach you more, to educate you more, and we are happy to do that. So please reach out to us. And again, thank you to the Metro Council, the Mayor's Office for funding this project, Councilwoman Suara for your leadership, to getting us to significantly further than we would have been. We were one attorney and a paralegal, and we've increased that to 5 attorneys and about 6 supports. Yeah, about 6 additional staff, all working to keep people housed if possible.
So we're building homes, we're building new homes, we're keeping people out of eviction, we're helping our unhoused neighbors. I think we're on track to solve the housing crisis. The crisis did not start yesterday. It will take some time. And so that's why the education and all the information is very vital. Again, I'm very grateful to all 3 of you for the incredible work that you're doing and for taking the time to share with us. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you again for being with me and for all that you do.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.